On our culture of care. This is our third episode, Caleb. And a couple of things that's kind of begun to be clear, a couple of principles that we have developed. One is it's okay not to be okay. And that is a conversation that we're having within the church. But a second one is along this line that no one should ever have to struggle or suffer alone, that we walk alongside of one another. And in the last episode, I kind of shared some of my experience years ago of needing someone to walk alongside of me. And it might be helpful today. Has there ever been a time where you have actually experienced that, where you were not okay and you were struggling and you had to be able to have other people walk alongside of you? Can you think of anything?
Oh, probably more than one. But there's one that probably was one of the greatest ones that I went through was I was young in my ministry life and young in my actual life. I'm not so young anymore. Yeah. But I actually went through a divorce, which a lot of people may not know that about me, but it was a really rough season. It wasn't necessarily a divorce I wanted. It wasn't something I was looking for. I was a children's pastor at the time, so that adds a whole complex issue of how is the children's pastor going through a divorce? Yeah. And you get all of those comments, and I'll be real honest, I mean, it was something I internalized. It was really challenging. Like, okay, well, my ministry life is over, that a lot of churches don't even allow divorced people to be around, and the standard of what that is. But I went through some really dark times on the backside of my divorce. There were a lot of depression days. There were a lot of days where, to being real vulnerable, real honest, there were a lot of days where I didn't know if I wanted to be here tomorrow.
Wow.
And during those times, and it was really cool that God, it shows the power of people and allowing people into your life, because on the days when it was darkest and where I would literally wake up and not want to get out of bed, not care about going to work, it was always those days when one of my random friends would show up at the door that morning and say, God told me I need to come, And so when you look back at those moments, in the moment you don't necessarily see it or feel it, you're really annoyed. I wish you could just go away, leave me alone. But when you get through the backside of one of those things, you begin to look back and see how important it was for each one of those people that God sent to be a part to keep you out of that loneliness or that despair that ultimately could end in a really bad place where you do something like take your life because of outward pressures. And it was really important for me in my time. I went through some counseling, went through a long healing process. It wasn't necessarily a short thing. But through some very dedicated people in my life, I stepped out of church, stepped out of ministry, obviously at the time, and because I needed to focus on myself. And it took me a process of really walking through, and some of these people really pushing me. I ended up getting back in church and really getting back involved. And it's been a real journey leading me to where we are today. Yeah. But I can say that there was a period of time where I definitely was not okay. Yeah. But it was so important, and I can see the faces of the people that showed up at my door, that the phone calls of people who reached into my life and made pivotal moments. And without those people, I really don't like to even think about where I could have ended up if those people wouldn't have been obedient, and I wouldn't have been okay to let them in. So absolutely, I think in my life there are moments where God showed up, and I needed those people to walk into my life. And when we're obedient to that, I know He can bring healing out of it, and He did for me.
Yeah. Well, Caleb, before we finish this episode up, I think it'd be very encouraging. I know there's people watching this right now that are in that dark place. Mm-hmm. They may be contemplating some of the same thoughts you were contemplating on those dark days when you felt like you were alone and questioning what the future would look like. Something maybe specific that you learned through that entire process that you would be able to speak just an encouragement or giving somebody some hope and direction. What do you think that would be as a result of where you've walked and what you've experienced?
Well, for me, I would say if you're watching this video, this could be one of those things that when God presents someone or something in your life that speaks to you, allowing that to move you to action, because I could have easily met my friend at the door and be like, hey, I don't want to deal with this today. I thank you for coming, but bye. Yeah. I could have easily done that. but I really wanted to get out of the pit that I was in. So it was that saying, okay, I'm going to go with you to have ice cream today. I don't want to, but I'm going to, and see how that goes. So I would say, like, if you're watching this video and you're in that, this video could be that, us saying, if you're not okay, it's okay. But there are people that care.
Yeah.
There are people, and be open and receptive to what God lays in your path, be it people, videos, phone calls. For me, that was the thing, is almost every time I hit my darkest, God would send someone. And the time I didn't see it, which you may be not seeing it right now, but I'm telling you, these are the kind of things that God does. He does it, and you just have to be obedient to try, even though it's uncomfortable, you don't want to, allow God to get you out, because the enemy wants to isolate us.
Absolutely.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
The culture of care is about us coming beside and saying, hey, I know you're hurting, and I care enough to walk with you. That is the culture of care.
Yeah. I know that's a great encouragement to you. I ask you to look forward to the next video session. We'll continue this in episode 4. God bless you guys. Have a great day.